Welcome back to Ghost Pirate Entertainment. I'm your host, Kanan Becker, and today we talk about 10 of the greatest space horror movies of all time. So real quick before we get into this, I just wanted to give you guys kind of my ground rules on what I use to help me decide what movies to put. Because I saw a lot of you guys recommending movies that are amazing, but a lot of them are alien horror movies. And I already did do an alien horror movie list, so definitely go check that out. But this is space horror. So the rule I set for myself was that these are movies that are in space, either primarily in space or on another planet, but that are not on Earth, at least for the vast majority of the movie. And so that's kind of what I used as just a barometer to help me figure out what movies to qualify to put on this list. But with that, let's get to the list. Pandorum is a 2009 German-British sci-fi horror movie. Directed by Christian Albert, it stars Dennis Quaid, Ben Foster, and Angie Trow. Two members of a spacecraft wake up from hypersleep to discover that all their colleagues are missing. But despite this, it appears they are not alone. This is an entertaining, exciting, really fun movie. It's not a serious movie, but more of a creature feature sci-fi adventure. But I really enjoy the element of not knowing what's going on. Like, this movie starts off and it's just these two crew members who wake up and they have no idea. And so as the movie goes, you kind of follow them, and little by little you discover what is the deal, what's the situation, and what the truth is. I also really enjoy the practical special effects and makeup design that's done in this, because too many of these movies now are just so full of CGI, but this one definitely has a lot more practical effects. This is an exciting, entertaining little gem that I thoroughly enjoy.
We won't survive re-entry.
But it could.
Good night. Noises everywhere.
Life is a 2017 sci-fi horror movie. Directed by Daniel Espinosa, it stars Jake Gyllenhaal, Ryan Reynolds, and Rebecca Ferguson. A team of scientists aboard the International Space Station discover a rapidly evolving life form that caused the extinction on Mars and now threatens all life on Earth.
We're looking at the first proof of life beyond Earth.
This is a really polished, high-end sci-fi horror movie that has an absolutely amazing star-studded cast. I really enjoy the set design and costume design and how much attention to detail is put into just all the way this movie looks. And I'm really a big fan of this alien life form. It feels organic, it feels real, it feels like something that could actually exist. And I love how this movie just takes you down this rabbit hole as things just get worse and worse and worse, with things happening that you're not going to expect, or them doing things you don't expect. It's just a well-written little movie, but it's a fairly simple movie, even though it does have a big budget, and like I said, it's extremely well polished. You can tell there's a lot of money and time put into it. The story of it and the dialogue and everything is still pretty simple. So it's not a think piece. It's one that definitely feels much more like a summer blockbuster. But I think it's a great movie, and one that really kind of doesn't get enough love. I think it's kind of flown under the radar, even though it was a fairly big movie with a huge cast. It just never kind of really caught hold. And I get it, because it's not a perfect movie. But if you're looking for a fun popcorn sci-fi horror movie, this one is absolutely fantastic.
We can't let this get back to Earth.
The Last Days on Mars is a 2013 sci-fi horror movie. Directed by Rory Robinson, it stars Liv Schreiber, Elias Koteas, and Romola Garai. A group of astronaut explorers succumb one by one to a mysterious and terrifying force while collecting specimens on Mars.
Take me down. They're gone.
Harrington, you seeing this?
I don't know what it is, but it's definitely alive.
So the thing that I really appreciate about this movie is just its mysterious quality. Because yes, it's well acted, it looks great, I really enjoy how it's shot, and the set design and meticulous attention to detail. Like, you can really tell there's a lot of care and thought put into everything involving this. But what really excites me about it, and what made me always love it, is just this mysterious quality it has. Because it just slowly unfolds, and you're constantly guessing what's gonna happen and what is out there, what is actually going on. Is it an alien, or is it something going on with their brains, or what is going on? And it just kind of slowly pulls you along. And I really enjoy movies like that because I just love mysteries and alien stuff. But when you put it out in space on another planet, it just goes to a whole nother level of fun. But this is an exciting movie full of adventure and keeps you on the edge of your seat with some fantastic visuals, solid acting. I think it's a great little movie and one that definitely deserves to be on this list. Pitch Black is a 2000 sci-fi horror movie, directed by David Thwahi and co-written by Thwahi and brothers Ken and Jim Wheat. It stars Vin Diesel, Rhoda Mitchell, Cole Hauser, and Keith David. A transport ship crashes and leaves its crew stranded on a desert planet, inhabited by bloodthirsty creatures that come out during an eclipse.
All you people are so scared of me. But it ain't me you gotta worry about now.
So since this movie came out, it's been one of my absolute favorite sci-fi horror movies. Just everything about it I love. I love how it has this weird, mysterious unknown, and then little by little you start to kind of see what's going on. But the way they use complete darkness to just slowly let you kind of see what's going on, I thought was so much fun. And back in the day, especially in theaters, this movie was a lot of fun. And back then, Vin Diesel was a complete unknown, but immediately he grabs you as this serious badass. And for such a simple movie, it's actually rich in all these little details. Everything from like his eyes, the way the creatures can see, and the way they build the myth and the rules of what these creatures do and how they work, and just all those things like that. Like I said, for a very simple movie, it feels rich and full of textures and life. This is such a badass, fun movie, and absolutely one of my favorites.
Break the laws of nature. You'll pay for it.
High Life is a 2018 sci-fi horror movie, directed by Claire Denis in her English language debut, and written by Dennis and Jean-Paul Fergal. It stars Robert Pattinson, Juliette Binoche, and Mia Goth. The story is about a father and daughter who struggle to survive in deep space where they live in isolation.
We were scum. Trash. Refuse that didn't fit into the system. Until someone had the bright idea of recycling us. Serve science.
So I've heard about this movie for quite a while now, but I just had never pulled the trigger until now. And I watched it for making this list, and I was really impressed because it starts out really slow. To be honest, it almost lost me because it just really takes its time getting going for probably the first 20 minutes or so. But then slowly you start to see the story unfold, and there's so many layers to it. It's very complex. It is a slow burn though. The whole thing is this artistic, kind of artsy slow burn kind of feel to it. But the acting is incredible in this and really is the star, because you could tell this is a small indie movie that didn't have a big budget by any means. So it really puts the weight on the actors to make or break this, and they really do. They absolutely carry it. There's so much emotion in this and so many different things that happen that leave you feeling all these different ways. But it is an A24 movie, so you kind of need to know what you're getting in for. This isn't an exciting action horror movie or anything that's gonna scare you. Instead, there's things that make you feel uncomfortable with loneliness and sadness and dread. And just like I said, there's just a lot of emotions in this, but it's beautifully shot and directed. And I think it's a beautiful film that if you're a fan of indie, slow burn, artsy horror, it is an absolute must watch.
I'll get you out of this.
Talk to me!
Forgive me.
Europa Report is a 2013 sci-fi horror movie. Directed by Sebastian Cordio, it stars Kristen Carmigo, Anna Maria Marinka, and Daniel Wu. An international crew of astronauts undertakes a privately funded mission to search for life on Jupiter's fourth largest moon.
We are clear of Jupiter's orbit.
Pitching for power descent. Ladies and gentlemen, hold on. Here we go.
I can't believe I'm here.
So this is definitely one of the most realistic, real feeling of any space horror movie I've ever seen. Just everything about the way this is constructed feels like a real event. The way it's shot and how it feels like you're watching a real news broadcast. And just the way the dialogue is written, the attention to detail that's in the actual space shuttle, everything feels very real. It doesn't feel like a lot of these movies where everything is just this huge set. And you could tell that's not a real spaceship. It's definitely a huge set piece. You know, there's no way they would be able to fly something that massive with cockpits that big and all of that stuff, right? This doesn't feel that way. This feels like just slightly into the future advancements that we would have with NASA. It feels like something that could really take place. Beyond that, the acting is so solid. Everybody feels like there's this real chemistry, real camaraderie. There's no beautiful supermodel looking actors. They just feel like real astronauts, real people. And it just really sucks you in and makes you feel like you're a part of this real mission. But it is a slow burn, and it slowly takes its time because it feels, like I said, like real science, like real stuff going on. But because of that, it's sneaky. So it slowly pulls you in to the point where you feel completely engulfed in this story. And so when things start to go off the rails, it feels that much more real. So in my opinion, if you've never seen this movie, I think it's absolutely a must watch. Sunshine is a 2007 psychological sci-fi horror movie. Directed by Danny Boyle and written by Alex Garland. It stars Cillian Murphy, Chris Evans, Michelle Yeoh, and Rose Byrne. A team of international astronauts are sent on a dangerous mission to reignite the dying sun with a nuclear fission bomb in 2057. So this is a movie that absolutely blows me away that it's not talked about more, because this is an amazing movie. The cast alone, everybody in it went on to become some of our absolutely biggest Hollywood stars. It really is incredible who's in this. But beyond that, it's well written. The dialogue is amazing. It's got a lot of money put into it. The set designs, costume designs, everything about the way this movie looks is just fantastic. I mean, it's written by Alex Garland, who wrote Ex Machina and Annihilation. It's directed by Danny Boyle, who did the 28 Weeks Later and Days Later movies. Like, just such talent is on display in this, and they do such a good job of putting this movie together. And it just has this really epic, grand scale adventure to it. All the concepts in it are massive and large and just grand. Everything feels like it's on this massive scale. This really feels like a big blockbuster movie, and yet I never even heard about it until recently. Like, it's incredible how little talked about this movie is. But I get it, because for such a big movie, like, it had a big budget, it had a big release, without giving anything away in case you haven't seen it, it's not the happiest movie. It has a lot of kind of tragedy in it. In general, it kind of has this nihilistic way of going about things, kind of like what Danny Boyle did with the 28 Weeks Days Later movies. They don't feel like the happiest, happy-go-lucky, happy ending kind of movies. Instead, they feel like a real world situation that's tragic. People you care about die. But if you're a fan of film and enjoy great storytelling, this movie is incredible. It really flies way too far under the radar, but it's one that if you've never seen it, do yourself a favor and find a way to watch this, because I think it's only available to rent streaming, but it is so worth it. So definitely add this to your list. Dark City is a 1998 neo-noir sci-fi horror movie, directed by Alex Proyas and written by Proyas, David S. Goyer, and Lim Dobbs. It stars Rufus Sewell, William Hurt, and Kiefer Sutherland. A man struggles with memories of his past and a nightmarish world that no one else ever seems to wake up from. So this is one of my all-time favorite movies, and it's another one that really flies under the radar because some people know about it. It definitely has a little bit of a cult following, but as good as this is, as unique as it is, just as creative as it is, you would think it would have a much bigger following. But I've come to learn over the years that the more unique and odd and strange a movie is, the less the mainstream is gonna get it. And so this movie just is flown under the radar. Part of the problem is this movie has been lumped in with The Matrix because there was a lot of things that were trying to take from The Matrix, but this actually came out a year before The Matrix. So in no way is it stealing from it. Whereas there was a lot of other movies after The Matrix that were very clearly stealing from ideas and things in The Matrix. But unfortunately, for whatever reason, it's just never gotten the traction that I think it deserves or the love that it deserves. But it's a brilliant movie. It looks incredible. It's so stylish and mysterious and creepy and creative. It's scary, but it's full of action and excitement. It's an adventure, but it's also an old school gumshoe mystery. It's so many things wrapped into one that just make for a beautiful sci-fi horror movie. So to those of you out there like myself that have seen this, you know what I'm talking about. You know how incredible this movie is. But if you have never seen it, I think you really need to do yourself a favor and check it out because it really is one of my absolute all-time favorite movies.
Can't leave. She won't let you. God help us.
Event Horizon is a 1997 sci-fi horror movie, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson and written by Philip Eisner. It stars Lawrence Fishburne, Sam Neill, and Julie Richardson. Set in 2047, it follows a crew of astronauts sent on a rescue mission after a missing spaceship, the Event Horizon, spontaneously reappears orbiting near Neptune.
Where's she been for the last 7 years, Doctor?
That's what we're here to find out.
So I've talked about this movie numerous times on the channel because it's one of my absolute favorites. I mean, it's right up there as one of my absolute favorite horror movies. It's just incredible. And it really holds up like not a lot of other movies have. Partly is because they didn't overdo the CGI. They really did a lot of practical work, but it's also just super creative and demented. It's one of those movies that stuck with me so bad. Like back in the day, this movie really got in my brain and messed with me for a long time afterwards. Like to the point where I just almost had PTSD from the fear that this movie instilled in me. Because I've heard a lot of people call it the Hellraiser in space. But in my opinion, this movie is way more terrifying, demented, and feels much more like you're dipping into the mind of an insane person, much more than Hellraiser does. But in no way do I mean to slight Hellraiser. I'm just saying this movie is even more intense to me and feels much more just demented and warped than Hellraiser. And the wild thing is, there's a huge chunk of this movie that was cut out because it was that gory graphic with nudity and just this full-on blood orgy that was cut from it. There's been stories forever about a VHS tape that has all the edited out parts, and that maybe one day they would make a director's cut and put that back in. But I've also heard that it's such low grade quality and it doesn't add a lot more to the movie, not enough to really make it worth the money that it would cost to put that together. But as a fan of this movie, as a huge fan of this movie, it would be amazing to just get to see it. So I wish they at the very least would make it available online somewhere to where you could check it out just to see what this movie in its complete form would have looked like. But I love everything about it. The cast is fantastic. The way it looks, the style, it feels very, very futuristic and sci-fi. On top of that, there's just tons of layers of meaning and things to this movie that are really fun to think about and talk to others about as well. But I think this is a fantastic horror movie that definitely deserves to be on this list. Alien is a 1979 sci-fi horror movie, directed by Ridley Scott and written by Dan O'Bannon. It stars Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, and Harry Dean Stanton. The crew of a commercial spacecraft encounter a deadly life form after investigating an unknown transmission. So I've seen this movie countless times, but yet I still rewatched it last night because I just love it. It's just that good that I didn't need to in any way, shape, or form, but I wanted to because it just holds up like very few movies. It really is breathtaking what they were able to accomplish so long ago with all these simple, creative solutions for practical effects. Because even with all the advanced CGI we have and how far it's come, I still have never seen an alien creature more terrifying than when you first see the xenomorph in this. It's just incredible the way the spit is dripping, everything about the lighting and the way they shoot it. It looks so real and absolutely horrifying. But I love how simple and small and real this movie feels, because even though it's on this grand scale, like they're out in space, they're on this other planet, there's this alien life form, the way it's put together, everything feels so lived in, so real. The ship, nothing feels all special and glitzy and like Hollywood. It feels like what a real cargo ship kind of thing, a real working ship in space in years and years in the future could look like this worn out piece of machinery that people use every day for their job. And I think that's one of the big things that really makes this movie works, because it's not just the set pieces and all of that that look and feel that way, but it's the cast, their wardrobe, the way they talk to each other when they're having coffee. I mean, it just feels completely authentic, realistic, and it really makes you sucked in and feel like you're watching this real situation. I'm also a huge fan of the way the characters are developed in this, because there isn't just this one leading person that you're following from the beginning. You're kind of following all of them, and it slowly kind of makes you think, okay, this is the hero, this is who I'm gonna follow, and then no, this person gets killed off, and now all of a sudden you're following the female. And at the time, Sigourney Weaver's character, I guarantee you the vast majority of people that walked into the theater and watched this movie did not think that she was the hero, or that at any point she was going to be this character that they're following. And I love that. I think it's so fantastic because she doesn't feel like this super amazing, like she's not a super badass in this. She does become a badass in later on films, but in this, she's kind of got this doughy-eyed, like almost like a pencil pusher kind of character to her, but she does what she has to do to survive, and I love that. But this is just an amazing movie on every level. Not only is it one of the greatest sci-fi space horror movies or anything like that, this is just one of the greatest movies, period. And I don't think there's hardly anyone that would argue that, because there's just not really any flaws in this movie. So for me, and on this list, I had to put Alien as my #1 space horror movie of all time. So that's going to do it for me today, but I would love to hear your picks down in the comments. What are your favorites? But if you enjoyed this, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and ding that little bell, because that is the best way to keep track of this channel and when I post videos like this, and I post videos like this every single week. I also want to give a huge, massive, enormous thank you to the Ghost Pirate crew, to you guys over on Patreon, and to the channel members over here. You guys absolutely mean so much to me. And if you would like to find out how you can help support this channel over on Patreon, there's a link down in the description. Or if you'd like to become a channel member, there's a button right down there that says join. But like always, thank you so much for watching. Please crush that like button. And remember, guys, horror can be fun. If you enjoyed this, click right here to watch 10 amazing movies over on Netflix. And I'll see you guys next time.